if on the day you were born, your parents deposited $500 on an S&P 500 ETF or a total stock market ETF, and then added $500 every month for the next 4 years, you have $25,000 in savings plus about $5,000 in interest. If they didn't do anything else and only reinvested the dividends, then by the time you're going to retire, or roughly 62 years later, you will have over $11 million. If you wanted to take it out when you're around 30, 40, you have something like $2 or $3 million. And in the process, you didn't lift a finger. You didn't have to read the charts. You didn't have to read the stock market. None of that. Your money just keeps growing and growing and growing every year. That's the power of ETFs, and that is what I'm going to share with you in this video. My name is Daniel Ndukwu, and if you're new to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe and like this video, for the YouTube algorithm. Let's dive in. Now, first and foremost, let's start with what an ETF is. So an ETF is the acronym for what's known as an exchange traded fund. An exchange traded fund is the type of security that represents a fund, which is a collection of securities in different organizations or in different classes of investment. It can be traded on open exchanges, and you can buy in at the cost of a single share. If you're using a brokerage that supports fractional shares, you don't even need the cost of a share to buy into an ETF and start growing your investment portfolio. The draw of an ETF is that you're able to invest in multiple assets without having to buy each one individually. For example, let's say an ETF is comprised of Microsoft, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, etc. Buying one share of each of those companies will cost you something like $3,000. With an ETF, you can get exposure to all of those companies and only spend $100 or $200, whatever the cost of the ETF is. Another draw of ETFs is the fact that you diversify your portfolio by buying a single stock, because an ETF is built from a basket or a collection of shares or securities. Depending on the type of ETF, which I'll explain later, you might have shares of Shell or BP and then have shares of Microsoft and Amazon all in the same ETF. So if technology declines or one security declines, it won't affect the ETF so much. Whereas if you bought those shares individually, your portfolio might tank. It's automatic diversification. Now, there are many different types of ETFs, and it's important to understand this so that you can invest in the right asset class based on your goals and your age. Now, the type of ETFs include stock ETFs. These are the most popular types of ETFs and are where the majority of investment dollars are concentrated. It can be comprised of stocks from different companies and different sectors. There are a total of 11 sectors in the stock market. Then you have bond ETFs. Now, bond ETFs comprise of bonds from local governments, state governments, federal governments, companies, and international bodies or countries. And the good thing about bond ETFs is that they don't have a maturity date and that you're constantly receiving dividends from these ETFs. So it's a great way to produce passive income if you have enough investment. Now, commodity ETFs, these are comprised of different types of commodity. Now, commodity is really anything that can be sold, like gold, silver, coffee, bananas, whatever the case may be, any raw material. So a commodity ETF is a bit more complicated than standard ETFs because it can be commodity futures. It can actually be the actual commodity itself. It can be companies that trade exclusively in that commodity. So it's really important to understand what kind of commodity ETF you're buying into. So another type of ETF are Forex ETFs. So if you're interested in buying into foreign exchange and really don't like the volatility of Forex markets, you can invest in ETFs based on like the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, the euro, the British pound, and diversify your portfolio that way without exposing yourself to that direct risk of trading individual currency pairs. Now, one of my favorite type of ETFs are industry or sector ETFs. Now, there are 11 recognized sectors in the stock market like technology, construction, real estate, agriculture, etc. And so if you're interested in an individual sector and may not have the expertise to pick individual stocks and grow your portfolio that way, you can actually choose a sector ETF. I'm heavily invested in the technology sector ETF, and it has amazing returns because, well, technology is the future, right? So depending on what your own goals are and the kind of industries you have expertise or like, You can invest in any one of the 11 sectors, diversify your entire portfolio while still concentrating in a single sector that you feel may grow over time or that has had steady growth or steady returns year over year. Now, there's a last one is called inverse ETFs. Now, inverse exchange traded funds actually bet against the stock market. So they do short sales, and when a stock or a sector goes down, these ETFs actually go up. So if the stock market is having a good run, you'll be losing money with these ETFs. They're more complicated, and I don't recommend you buy them if you're a beginner because they can dissuade you from investing in the stock market because of the way they're volatile. Now, really quickly, how do you use the ETFs to build lasting wealth? Well, there's only one way to use them, really. Long-term investing using dollar cost averaging if you don't have a lump sum. Now, dollar cost averaging sounds complicated, but it's basically investing the same amount of money into the same stocks every month so that you're not exposed to the swings and dips of the stock market. And this is ideal when you don't have a lump sum to invest. And so ETFs are a long-term investment. They're not going to give you 200% returns in a year like what will happen if you choose a winning stock, but they will give you consistent returns depending on the type of ETF you choose. For example, if you invest in a total stock market ETF, then you can expect something like 7 or 8% return on investment compounded annually. All right, that means depending on the dips, the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe this year is down 5%, maybe next year is up 15%. Over time, it'll average out to giving you that kind of return. But you need to have a long investment horizon so that the short-term dips and gains won't affect you as much. Or let's say, for example, you just choose the S&P 500, which has historically given 10% per annum for the past 100 years. I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. So if you choose that kind of ETF and invest all of your money in it, then you're looking at like a 10 or 20 year horizon. That, whether it's $10,000, will double multiple times over the course of 20 years. Just like the example I gave you in the beginning, if your parents invested $25,000 for you over the course of your lifetime to when you retire, you'll be retiring with multiple $1 million. And now, before you jump in and say, yeah, I want to invest in ETFs, this sounds good, I want to be a millionaire by the time I retire. I mean, yes, it sounds tempting, but there are some things to watch out for when you're investing in ETFs. And in another video, I'll go much deeper into how to choose ETFs and things like that. But for now, these are the general things you need to understand before you jump in and buy an ETF. The first thing is the index that is being tracked. Every fund has an underlying index that it tracks or some philosophy behind how they're investing. And you want to make sure that the index being tracked is in line with what you feel comfortable investing in. For example, some ETFs track sectors, right? Technology sector, agricultural, construction, real estate, etc. And some track the entire stock market. Maybe they track the entire US stock market, or maybe they track the S&P 500, or maybe they track international markets, or maybe they track emerging markets. So it's very important to understand what index the ETF is tracking and make sure that's what you want. It's in line with your goals. The next thing you want to figure out is the daily trade volume. Now, this is a hedge against being locked into the ETF. So if only 10 shares of that ETF are being traded every single day, it'll be really, really difficult for you to buy into it, and two, for you to sell your shares because people simply aren't interested in it. If you have 1,000 shares and it's only trading 10 shares a day, it'll take you 100 days to trade out of that position. And by that time, the price might have tanked or whatever the case may be, right? So you want to make sure that whatever ETF you're buying into has a high daily trade volume. This will prevent your stock portfolio from being illiquid. Another thing to look out for is the actual size of the fund, the amount of assets they have under management. The smaller the amount of assets under management, the more likely that ETF will eventually close. Now, if an ETF closes, it's not the end of the world. They'll send you a notification. They'll ask you to sell your shares back to the market maker, and then you'll be eventually settled by check or direct transfer, whatever the case may be. So you don't actually have to worry about losing your money. But if you have a lot of gains and you weren't planning on cashing out, you'll have to pay taxes on those capital gains when you sell those shares back to the market maker. So that's an unpleasant situation because you're forced to do something that you wouldn't otherwise do. And then capital gains tax, who knows how it'll be in the next year with the presidential election looming. Actually, as I'm making this video, is actually going on right now, and Biden is in the lead. Maybe after this video goes live, Biden would have won or Trump would have won. Who knows? Anyways, back to the crux of the matter. So the next thing to look at is the expense ratio. Fund managers don't create ETFs for fun. They do it for profit, and that is what we call the expense ratio, the amount you pay a fund manager to manage this fund. Now, there are two types of fund management. You have active and you have passive. So the expense ratio, the percentage that of the assets paid as a fee to the fund manager, reduces when it's passively managed. It can be as low as 0.04%, and then it increases when it's actively managed up to like 1%. So you want to choose an ETF that has a high daily trade volume, is in the industry or sector or tracks the right index, and has a very low expense ratio. I personally wouldn't invest in anything that has an expense ratio over 0.1% because I see no need for that. There are many options out there. And of course, you want to look at the performance history. How has the ETF performed historically? Now, historic performance is not an indication of future performance, but it can help you gauge how the markets have been performing and help you make a better decision. Of course, no one can predict the future. For all we know, tomorrow the stock market will tank back to 1928 levels. Who knows? But that's very unlikely. So just look at the historic performance. If they've been going up and to the right every year based on the index they're tracking, then it's a good thing. And another thing you want to look at is tracking errors. Now ETFs are managed by human beings, whether that's active management or passive management. And so tracking error shows you the difference between the index that they're tracking and their actual performance. So let's say over the course of the past 10 years, an index has increased by 10% per annum, but the exchange traded fund itself has only been improving by 9%. That's a huge tracking error. That's a difference of 1%. But if to say the index has grown 10% every year and the ETF is growing at 9.9%, that's a negligible tracking error. And you can be confident that these people know what they're doing. You want to look for ideally ETFs that on average have a tracking error of 0.1%, but things happen every now and then. So if the tracking error is a bit higher or a bit lower than that every year, no problem. So that's really everything you need to know to get started with ETFs. I highly encourage you to do research on your own, talk to your financial advisor so they can steer you in the right direction based on your risk tolerance and goals. Even though ETFs are less risky than picking individual stock, there is a possibility that you'll lose your money, as with any type of investment. But I'm confident that you'll see your returns and you can too be a millionaire without lifting a finger, so to speak. That's it for this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video for the YouTube algorithm, and sure, just tap that screen. Make sure you don't crack it, of course, and I'll see you in the next video.